If you've been paying attention to Steam, journalism sites, or like any message board in existence, you've probably noticed this strange looking anime game plastered across everything. Before you get all riled up and start typing, "Why are these gosh darn Weibos taking over my Steam?" let's go ahead and talk about Doki Doki Literature Club, and how it's one of the most unexpected masterpieces to land on the Steam marketplace this year. So this should probably go without saying, but this contains crazy spoilers for Doki Doki Literature Club. This game is best experience blind, so only move forward if you've already beaten the game. Or if you just don't care. Anyways, my introduction to Doki Doki Literature Club was a couple of months ago, right before Halloween. I was feeling like a big boy, so I pulled up my pants and decided to venture off for a spooky game to play. Everything under the Steam horror tag is as you would expect, but something caught my eye. This bright-colored anime nerd trash was crowding up my marketplace. So naturally, I stumbled down into the comments where I planned to absolutely roast all those dirty weebs. To my surprise, the comments seemed to be hinting at something deeper in the game, and suggested that I play without reading any further to avoid spoiling the experience. So I got interested, and I was like, alright, that's it, I'll bite. And I went ahead and downloaded it, because, why not, it's free. So the Doki Doki experience starts off pretty much as lighthearted as can be. A catchy theme song and happy girly voices ring out on the main menu, and it just gives you this nice warm fuzzy feeling. And that's really how the game plays out for a while. These beginning 2 to 3 hours kind of lull the player into this false sense of security. As you move forward, you start to shrug off the warning that plays in the beginning, and decide that this may just be all that Doki Doki Literature Club even is. Now, I've played my fair share of visual novels, but even the initial VN part of this game really stood out to me. From the beautiful artwork and just the overall aesthetic, DDLC pulls you in right from the start. So before we get into it, there's a lot to discuss in this game, and I'm going to try really hard not to ramble on one topic for too long, so we're going to start from the very beginning. So the 3 obtainable girls are based off the really cliche character types in these type of, dating sim games. So there's Sayori, who's the childhood friend, Natsuki, who's the feisty but loving tsundere, and Yuri, the kind but a little bit crazy yandere. While the intent of DDLC was to mock these archetypes, each character still expands upon the cliches to become something more. All of the characters display believable issues and relationships. These characters are some of the more well-written and interesting ones that I've ever seen in a VN. From the quarrels between Natsuki and Yuri when they're discussing their writing styles, Sayori's depression, and Natsuki's abusive father, if Team Salvato really wanted to just mock cliches, they could have done that. But instead they took this really big leap and created believable characters with relatable issues and just expanded upon their personalities. So every day, you share poems with the other members of the Literature Club, and depending on the words that you select during that little poem minigame, your poem may speak to a certain member more than another. And one of the best parts about this game are these poems in the beginning. They are so gosh dang cool, and they always represent the character of whoever's writing them very well. Like, you could tell me that this character actually exists, came into existence just to show me this poem, and I'd nod my head and say, yep, sounds real to me. The creator, Dan Salvato's writing in these poems is absolutely brilliant. Not only is he a fantastic poet, he manages to create perfect tones for each character's personality and emotions. I know it shouldn't take a visual novel to pique my interest in the medium, but DDLC has really opened my eyes to the level of emotion that can be seen within poems. And I just can't compliment his poems enough. They all contain great symbolism and imagery and are just damn near worth playing the game off their merit alone. And before I get too much further, I just want to take a minute and say how good this music is. You listen to the same track like forever during the beginning, but man, it just never gets old. As you read each girl's poem, the music will change instruments to become a little bit more representative of that girl's personality, and it's a really small detail, but man, it is really neat, and it just helps build more character to each of the girls. Another bit in this beginning segment that I found to be personally impactful is the writing aspects. I do a little bit of writing myself, so I really enjoyed the big focus on literature in the game. Monica will frequently give you a writing tip, and I just always found that these were really genuinely interesting to me, and I often found myself just referring to them as I do my writing. While this may not have the same impact for everyone, I just felt that this added another layer onto a game that already had so much depth to offer. So while subsequent playthroughs may feel like this bit lasts a little bit too long, it's essential to this game's impact that you start to believe that this is just a standard visual novel. Everything up to this point is made to perfectly represent a regular game in the genre, and honestly, it's pretty fun. It's easy to get attached to the world and characters that Team Salvato created. And besides, after you experience what comes next, you'll start to miss the simpler times. Your childhood friend and the girl whose route I was initially following, Sayori, starts to display some really questionable behavior in her poems. It becomes crystal clear that her character is dealing with some very severe depression, and this is one of the tones that I found the game handled exceptionally well. Her poems are surprisingly deep and seemingly out of character for somebody as cheerful as herself, but you begin to realize that this happiness is just a facade that she projects and finds herself being too drained to support herself, yet she fears dropping the facade, believing that it would be selfish. Towards the end of the first half, Sayori confesses her feelings for you. Either the feeling of selfishness for projecting her depression onto you, or the heartbreak and sense of being alone is enough to force her to take her own life. This may feel frustrating that neither loving Sayori or #friendzoning her, she ultimately takes her own life. But I personally found this to be a really, really good portrayal of her character, despite how goddamn sad it is. She has her own battles that she's facing, and nothing you can do can stop that. Whether it be heartbreak or the realization that you're not the answer to all of her problems, she still reaches the same brutal end. But that's not really the end of it. So the game starts to tear apart at the seams after finding Sayori's body. The haunting theme of Sayonara plays, and the code starts to bug out and just break the entire game. Whether or not you were following Sayori's route, you'll be shocked at the turn the game takes, and it was a legitimately very sad ending. So while you're recovering emotionally, DDLC shows that it's definitely not finished with you yet. In fact, it was just getting started. So upon reaching the main menu again and starting another playthrough, the bugs are still constantly appearing. Any mention of Sayori is just completely scrubbed from the script, and it places the player in this strange state, where despite everything seeming normal, something very spooky is going on in the background. And now the game continues much like it did in the first half, but you're in defense mode. You know something fishy's going down here. It becomes apparent that the club president, Monica, has now become self-aware and is trying to force the game to give her a route and stay with you. Not you, the character, like the actual you as a person. While Monica is essentially the villain of this story, her motives and actions never seem questionable. Team Salvato wrote one of the most believable villains that I've ever seen. She's an AI who was forced to come to the realization that her world and everyone that she knows is fake, and she is the only person that will ever realize it. The player is the only other real thing that she has ever known, and she will stop at nothing to be united with them. As Monica tries to create her own ending through adjusting all the characters' personalities and just creating extreme versions of their former selves, she accidentally crafts one of the goddamn scariest games that came out in 2017. From the occasional graphical glitch to terrifying neck snaps, DDLC keeps you on your toes during the entire playthrough. The shift in tone from the first half really amplifies the terror that you feel once everything breaks. I remember actually looking over my shoulder and feeling chills go down my back as Yuri's eyes dart around in the dark, seemingly looking past the player character and into your soul. While some of the scares may be considered jump scares, most of the horror in this game is purely psychological. You know, fear of what the other characters may say or do next, and fear of what the next gruesome sight will be. Now, I love me some horror games, but DDLC does horror in a way that is truly unique, and it feels like something you've never experienced before. I love the way that the game tries to interact with the player's computer, from fake blue screens of death, manipulating files within the game's directory, and checking to see if the player has been recording the gameplay just to punish them with a jump scare. It's pretty crazy. Even through all this, however, as Monica blunders through the code, causing chaos, creating psychopaths, or severely depressing her friends, you still manage to feel sympathy for her situation. Monica is not a bad person, she's just scared and looking for a way to safety. As the game nears the final act, Monica will frequently break the fourth wall in an attempt to reach out to the player. She often foreshadows to a future event or simply just tries to reach out in desperation, slowly becoming unsure if there's even another person on the other side of her prison. Once the game is finally shattered beyond repair, you become trapped in the space classroom with Monica. This scenario is essentially endless, and you could just consider this to be one of the endings if you didn't want to try and repair things. So Monika's writing in the space classroom is amazing. She has hours worth of topics to mull over, and her insights and advice is all legitimately interesting. This section makes Monika into such a believable character. She has real-world opinions and emotions. The space classroom Monika's dialogue may be some of the best dialogue you'll ever read in a game. She actually feels like a real person. And because of this, deleting Monika at the end of the story is still absolutely heartbreaking to me. And being forced to do it again for the sake of this recording actually bummed me out. This emotion that I felt, the actual conflict that the player has when considering deleting Monika, is a testament to the story that Team Salvato has written. DDLC has made me feel a lot of emotions that I don't often get when playing video games.
As the credits roll, Monika plays you one final song. Few songs can bring the emotion that Your Reality does to me, but man, does it tear me up every single time. Your Reality is one of the best tracks to come from a game in 2017, and having it play at the end of DDLC as the final nail in the coffin, your emotions just start to go haywire. As if this wasn't a memorable game already, Your Reality is what really made this game feel complete, and will stick in the back of your mind for months to come.
Doki Doki Literature Club is a free game on Steam, and has so much to offer for no entry fee. From expertly written characters, a compelling narrative, terrifying horror, and a charming aesthetic, it's hard to find anything negative to say about DDLC. Subsequent playthroughs may not have that same kick that you felt on the first time through, but your first time playing through Doki Doki Literature Club gives you an experience unlike any other. I'm glad I got to play the game when I did and watch the community grow from a tiny subreddit to this massive phenomenon. The community support is fantastic, and dedicated fans are creating everything from stories to art and to mods that add on to the story that DDLC left off on. If you watch this video but still haven't played it yet, I can't urge you enough to give it a try. And if you have played it already, I hope Doki Doki Literature Club gave you an experience as emotional, horrifying, and absolutely memorable as mine did. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you dig this one, maybe you should check out those other 2 videos I've got down there. Or if you really liked me, go ahead and click on that middle button to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.